time Bolden is alone back. Snead will throw for the first time toward Hodge. End zone. He's got it. Touchdown, left corner. I formation with Poe the fullback. Play action pass, a bootleg. He goes in untouched. Touchdown, Ole Miss.
Snead has become only the second Ole Miss quarterback to throw for over 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons.
Snead is down and hurt. Oh boy, did he get hit hard. Watch this. He's hustling over to make a tackle. Nothing dirty, just a good clean hard hit. Here's a great handoff.
Quarterback Jevan Snead has died at the age of 32. Snead was found overnight by Austin police, but they say they do not suspect foul play.
He probably had several concussions. That was just a really big one.
From the time he was a boy, number 9 on the San Angelo Apaches stood out.
He was good at any sport. He had a really great arm.
By high school, Jevan Snead's family had moved to North Texas, to Stephenville, known for his Friday night football. Jevan joined the Stephenville High School Yellow Jackets as a freshman.
We saw this tall, blonde kid, he's kind of skinny, walking around, just, who is this kid?
Corey Kenyon remembers the day they met.
He picks up the ball and he chunks it 50 yards easy as a freshman. We're like, okay, I think we can be friends with this guy.
By his junior year, colleges and universities from across the country came calling.
My parents had the big old Nike shoe boxes full of letters. They must have had, 4 or 5 boxes full of nothing but recruiting letters.
Jevan chose the University of Texas.
He went right after they won their national championship.
He wanted to spend a year training under then quarterback Vince Young, then take his place when he graduated the next year.
He still had another year of eligibility, and really at UT, they had not had a quarterback leave early. So we fully expected that Vince Young would stay another year and Jevan could learn under him.
Instead, Young entered the NFL draft and Colt McCoy became UT's next big star.
He was very bummed because, he went from no question starter all through high school and then was on the bench behind Colt.
Hoping for a bigger role on the field, Jevan left his home state and moved to the University of Mississippi.
And as soon as he stepped foot on campus and he stepped foot in the town, he called and he said, "Y'all aren't going to leave this place. It feels like home."
And that is where his college football career took off.
Pass. Snead sets up to throw deep over the middle. He's got Marquise Summers caught at the 25. He's gone.
He spent the rest of his college career as Ole Miss's star, building a resume of memorable plays.
He's a good teammate. On the field, he got a rocket. He can throw it through your chest.
In 2009, he led the Rebels to an 8-4 record and a trip to the Cotton Bowl, 100 miles from his hometown.
I'm from around here, so I feel extremely lucky to be able to play in front of all my friends and my family.
That was the first time they had played a Cotton Bowl in the new stadium. And he had that huge screen.
In the second quarter, Jevan threw an interception and, while trying to prevent a touchdown, suffered a helmet-to-helmet crash. Strong enough to send his helmet into the air, powerful enough to lay Jevan flat on the field.
You're sitting and waiting to see if he's okay. And they showed it on the huge screen.
In slow motion and replay.
You could see his eyes roll back into his head, and he was out for what seemed like forever for us.
Jevan returned to the game in the fourth quarter, and Ole Miss beat Oklahoma State 21-7.
And nowadays that you would never go back in a game after something like that, and he did.
He left Ole Miss a few months later to enter the NFL draft, his professional career never taking off the way he had dreamed.
He would get a little blue in the fall when football came around. I think he missed it a little bit, and also kind of, the what ifs or would creep back in.
Jevan came back here to Austin and tried to put football in his past. He made new friends and he had several different jobs. But there was something about his days on the field that he could not leave behind.
He didn't remember any of the games that he played in. He didn't remember a lot of his childhood.
Just sitting around privately, talking about, old games and Ole Miss things, and he would just kind of laugh and be like, I have zero recollection of that.
By 32, Jevan had developed symptoms resembling dementia. Family members believe he suffered from CTE, a condition caused by repeated head trauma. They believe he had a series of concussions throughout his football career, including that day at the Cotton Bowl.
We've seen CTE with boxers, football players, and people who especially have a history of recurrent head injuries, concussions, or even what we call subconcussions, where people have hits to the head but may not have symptoms associated with that.
Jevan's family and friends say he too was certain he had CTE, which can only be diagnosed after a person has died.
We believe that people with CTE are at higher risk of having behavior changes, depression, thoughts of suicide, any number of cognitive and memory symptoms.
And over the past decade, those symptoms slowly ate away at Jevan. On Saturday, September 21st, Jevan was supposed to pick up a friend at the airport. When he didn't show, his loved ones feared the worst and called Austin police. Officers forced their way into his apartment, where they found Jevan's body. He had taken his own life by hanging himself.
You don't believe it at first. You can't believe that what they're saying is true.
He's like my brother, He was my best friend. He was the best man in my wedding, and when he died, a little piece of me died too, so.
In the months before his death, Jevan told his family that he wanted his brain donated to research, hoping doctors could learn something to better protect the next generation of football players.
There's been way too many football players that have ended their lives, and so many of them have been linked to CTE. I want to know, we have to know if this had a role in it.
Jevan's family says educating parents and players is now their way to honor his memory, his legacy on the field, and to always remember the price they believe he paid for a game he loved.
Snead takes a snap, throws deep for Hodge, got him down the near sidelines, touchdown, Ole Miss.
Jevan Snead, pressure was coming from his backside, but Jevan just calmly stepped into it, perfectly thrown.
In keeping with his wishes, Jevan Snead's family has donated his brain to an institute in Boston that researches CTE. They said they expect to have his formal diagnosis of the condition in coming months. Tony Plahetsky, KVUE News.